and welcome to my live talk today. Sorry, I'm just going to move this. I think I am live in the group. I hope I am. If you are watching this, then please let me know. Oh, and I've got all sorts of things popping up on my screen right now. So as promised, I'm popping in today to talk a bit about the origins of Hygge. And I am wearing my glasses. I'm supposed to wear them every day, but I don't always remember to. So if you're watching this, please let me know. Give me a thumbs up, give me a heart if you like what you're hearing. Make sure to use the comments. You can watch, do hashtag live if you're watching it live. You can do hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. But as we all know, or you might not know, but Facebook will only make other people aware of the fact that this video is here if enough people also engage with it. And engage is really what I hope that you will do today, because I've jumped on to talk about not only the origins but also about what Hygge actually means to a lot of Danish people, and it's very much ingrained in Danish culture. And I think until I started traveling the world and teaching Hygge, I didn't actually realize how different Hygge is viewed in many places. So make sure you ask me questions as we go through this, if you have got any, and I shall do my best to answer them. So what is Hygge? I looked it up. I think it's the first time I've actually looked it up. I looked it up before I jumped on because I wanted to know what the definition according to the Oxford Dictionary is, and it said Hygge, a quality of coziness and comfortable conviviality with feelings of contentment and well-being, a defining characteristic of Danish culture. And actually, once I read this, I thought, oh yeah, no, I think I've kind of heard this before, and I think that is very much a way that a lot of people are trying to describe it. That is because true Hygge is it takes more than a sentence to actually describe it, and it takes more than, and I often say this, it takes more than a center candle to actually create Hygge. So yes, Hygge is actually from the old Nordic word Hygge, if I pronounce that correctly. You actually still have that word both in Icelandic and Faroic language, but they mean slightly different things. But because Hygge stems from the word Hygge, the Old Norse word, the word and the concept of Hygge exists across many Nordic countries. But it's only really in Denmark and to some extent Norway as well, because we've got very strong cultural links with Norway anyway. But there's a lot of cultural heritage and history there. But even though they have it in Norway, it's not the same as the Danish understanding and practice of Hygge. So it has got a more complex meaning, the Old Norse word of Hygge, and it very simplified. It means to think or to examine, and that's one of the reasons why I often explain and teach the core principles and more of the deeper stuff around Hygge by starting to explain it as a mindset, because it's in here. It's not actually anything to do with your surroundings. A lot of people think that the surroundings need to be in a certain place, but they don't. We can help it by having the surroundings in a certain place, but it's not an exterior thing. So Hygge, as I said, exists also in other Nordic languages in Scandinavian culture. So in Sweden, they will refer to it as mus, and in Norway it's kors or korsli, and it is used, but in Denmark it's part of culture. So it's not just something that we do, or that some people do, it is the entire culture is built up around hygge. It's part of the national identity, if you like, the characteristics of Danes, how we view ourselves. It's how we live our lives. It's how we live our lives on a boring Wednesday evening. It's how we get through cold, dark winters. It's how we get through bright summers. And it's all very much something to do with how we socialize. It's also about how we decorate our house and our homes. And you can just look at big furniture um, company IKEA, and you know, their success is not without reason. You know, they've dipped into a lot of the core, I think, of not only Nordic living that a lot of people find desirable, but there's the deep hygge aspect in there as well. Okay. But let me make it clear, first of all, hygge is not something you buy. So you can't buy it, and you can't buy it flat packed either. But it goes very deep, and it will take more than my little talk here today to try and actually explain true hygge. I mean, I run courses on the subject, so if you know, it would take more than a couple of these to actually go through it, but I might do a follow-up. We'll see. Another thing, and I made my little list here because these are kind of the common things that often people say, is that people will often translate hygge as cozy, and that's not quite right either. Again, it's quite it's a very simple top line view of it, because cozy is actually, it's a physical description. Okay, and I think that's often where the first error sneaks in with the understanding of what hygge really is. And you can say that something is hygge. Oh, that, you know, that chair looks hyggelig, okay, as we would say in Danish. But that doesn't mean that it actually will give you hygge sitting in that chair, okay? That's just the chair looking in a certain way. And I think we are very much in a society where things need to be conveyed in image. You know, they need to be conveyed very quickly and easily. And to be quite honest, that doesn't quite work with hygge, because hygge is, like I say, it's more of a mindset, and it's inside you, and it's something that is created. So you can't just say that it looks in a certain way. But that's where, when we live in a culture where image is key, that I think is it's a struggle. A lot of people are trying to convey hygge, so they have this picture, you know, of people sitting by the fireplace, you know. And I saw this, someone had posted this on social media. They were in front of the fireplace, they had their cup of tea, they had their book, they had their thick socks on, and they were going like, am I doing this right? Because, like, I don't know. You have the surroundings, but I don't know if you're actually feeling hygge on the inside. You know, it's a bit like you can buy all the gadgets in the world, but they're not going to make you happy. And that's also one of the reasons why this group is called what it's actually called, because hygge and happiness are very closely linked as well. Gosh, I'm already getting sidetracked from my notes, so sorry about that. So I've seen some eyeballs, but otherwise, if you are watching, like I said, make sure that you keep your questions coming, that you ask me questions, that you put in the comments either #live or #replay, so that I know that there's people there. Gosh, I hope I've gone live in the right group. Okay, so yeah, so hygge is a state of mind, and it's not something that you can buy. It's something that is created. And I think in a commercial society, that's a lot of people have taken advantage of the fact that people want a quick fix, so a lot of products, even shops have shot up, all associated with Hygge. And as a Dane, I almost feel like it's I don't know if I can use the word blasphemy, but that's just not how it works. And the whole idea that you need to have a scented candle and you need to have this, that, and the other, it's not actually true. It's That's just stuff. Okay. um I've seen so many things. I think one of the first things I saw that really outraged me was a scent, like a home perfume thing called something Hygge, like a true Hygge or something like that. And that kind of made me really furious, because I was thinking, you can't bottle this up. Okay, it's not something you can buy and then all of you spray it and all of a sudden your home is transformed. But more importantly, your inside is transformed, like how you feel and how you view that moment, how you view the world. No, that doesn't quite work like that. um it's a bit like, like buying a pair of running shoes, a pair of running trainers, and then think that you're a marathon runner. Okay, so you can have the entire setup. You can have the roaring fire going. You can have your blanket. You can have your cozy thick socks on. You can have your favorite book. You can have your cup of tea, or whatever drink you have next to you, and and you can still be missing something key in order to actually um, experience Hygge in that moment. Because, like I said, Hygge is kind of it's something that we develop inside ourselves, and it's although it's very key, obviously, to take the time to stop and notice and feel it. And yes, that might be easier in front of the roaring fire and all of that, but it's yeah, it's something we have to look inside for, and we can't just look in our surroundings. um so, and also, a lot of people think it has to be cold. Yeah, because I mentioned the roaring fire. A lot of people go like, oh, okay, all right. So it needs to be cold. And again, I often call this conditional thinking. People think that, oh, there needs to be. It's a bit like with Christmas, I'm sure. Oh, there needs to be snow outside. It needs to be a certain thickness. It needs to be on the trees. Um, uh, the sky needs to be clear, or whatever, so you set up all these parameters thinking that things need to be in a certain way, but they don't. Okay, so Danes Hygge all year round. Yesterday I had Hygge in the garden with my son, and so the fact is that it doesn't need to be cold, although sometimes when it's cold, um, you might be able to have the setting in a certain way, so that you can indulge more in your own Hygge. But again, it doesn't need to be set up as such beforehand, before that Hygge moment or that feeling of Hygge and happiness is created. So you can Hygge anytime, anywhere. I've made a little list of typical things that I would say. So just also on the word of Hygge, I mean, Danish people will use it all day long in many conversations. Sometimes when I talk to my family or I talk to my friends, I kind of stop myself and I start counting. I start counting the amount of times that the word Hygge is mentioned, and it is just there. It's in the language. It's something that we use. It's either Hygge or it's hyggelig, if something is as a result of it, or you can kind of see it almost like it filled me with feelings of Hygge, or it gave me feelings of Hygge. But back to when when Danes would hygge. And actually the first one is both Danish and Swedish, because like I said, you know, it really, it does exist all across the Nordic countries, but it's practiced in different ways. And only in Denmark has it kind of become such an ingrained part of the culture. But if you think about the history, it kind of makes sense. All the Vikings, you know, across Scandinavia and the Nordic countries, you know, it kind of goes back to that time, and it makes sense because, you know, they obviously, um, how do you say, they had like big networks. It was all like one big family, and it goes back to those days, really. Um, but in Friday in Sweden, they have a term called fredagsmys, which basically means Friday's hygge, if you like. And that is typically a bowl of candy. So this kind of ties in with the Swedish term lagom as well, which means in good measures or in moderations. But we have it in Denmark and across the Scandinavian countries, Nordic countries in general. In Denmark, you might have fredagsslik, which is the same thing, so like Friday candy. If you live in another part of Denmark, you might be lørdagsslik, so Saturday candy instead. So in that case, in that sense, that it's a ritual that you do every week. So you might not have any sweet during the week, so you have it that one day, and it's really special for the kids. Let me say straight away, a lot of people associate hygge with a lot of unhealthy food, and again, no, it's not about the unhealthy food. It can have elements of it, but generally it's not about food. It can include food because food is a very obviously vital and important part. So, but yeah, so there can be the fredagsmys, fredagsslik, Friday candy, which, you know, the children, you know, obviously will be looking very much forward to. We can have feriehygge, holiday hygge. Okay, so holiday hygge, you might think, oh, well, what's that? Well, that's when you're, well, whatever your perfect holiday looks like. Again, this is very subjective. This is down to you. But it might be lying on the beach. It's, you know, you can just hear the waves. There might be a slight breeze. It's warm. You've got a cool drink. The children are playing in the sand, you know. And there's just that it's just feels, everything feels right in that moment. So, and there can be påskehygge, which is another one of the big traditions as well, where, you know, it's Easter, and it's time for gatherings. It's time for hygge in a special way. There's lots of traditions, lots of things around that, which I'll be covering in a separate talk. And there might be havehygge, as I said, so that's garden hygge. Okay, and again, that will look different for different people. It'll look different depending on what time of year it is. Yesterday it was very rustic for me and my son because it was February, it was drizzly, it was very grey, and we went out. We had a great fun playing different sorts of games in the garden and lost track of time. And then, you know, we just said like, oh, we've now had a good time. Okay, then my feet were starting to get wet because of all the rain, you know, and we went in, and my son explains it to his dad as, you know, havehygge. And I just, as a Dane with to a son growing up in the UK, I think, okay, well, my job is done because he knows exactly the essence of hygge here. So there's many types of hygge. I've got more on my list, but I'm also aware that I'm rambling on now. So many different ways of hygge, and the word hygge is, like I say, so ingrained in the Danish language. Sometimes it's used in context where people go like, whoa, that's really odd. Very famously, there was, I mean, anyone in the UK watching this might be familiar with the supermarket chain Netto, and they're Danish too. And actually, their CEO referred to their supermarkets as Hygge in an interview once, where they were actually questioning him, about the layout of some of the shops. And you might think, well, how can you associate a supermarket with being Hygge? Well, again, it's the connotations that are linked to this, and it will take me too much time just in this talk to kind of go into details about this. But that just kind of hopefully gives you an idea of how widely the span is for the use of this word, not only in Danish language, but also in Danish culture. And I've said several times during this talk now that Hygge is very much subjective, and I do believe that. And I don't think anyone needs to try and copy someone else's Hygge. On the contrary, I think Hygge it needs to be very subjective. It needs to be very individual. But I will go back to, again, just like the basics, that it's definitely nothing to do with commercialism, and it's got nothing to do with conditional thinking, as I mentioned, or for that matter, the setting necessarily. Although the setting can enhance or help people get to kind of that state of Hygge. So that was my ideas and thoughts for the day. I'm just going to check the comments. I don't think I have had any comments yet. If you are watching, then do let me know if you've got any questions. And also, as I said, #live or #replay, depending on how you do it. So more people will hopefully be aware of this video as well. So yeah, that was a quick whiz through the origins of Hygge and what it really means, at least to Danish people. And there's much more to talk about this, and especially when it comes to the deeper works around this, where it's more of the mindset and using it to kind of create not only happiness but also great health on not on occasions, but actually changing one's mindset and view on life. And that is something that I am working with organizations as well as private groups on. So if any of you would be interested in hearing more about that, then please let me know in the comments as well. I haven't mentioned it a lot in this group, but it's just work that I'm really, really passionate about. And I hope, if nothing else, you can tell by the way I'm talking today that I get very fired up about this, because to me, happiness and Hygge they just go hand in hand, really. And going back again to the old Nordic meaning of the word, to kind of think and meaning, then we all of a sudden open up this whole door of possibilities, that Hygge is not just scented candles and fluffy pillows. There is much more to it, to kind of help enrich our lives, and not least to create more joy. And when I talk about joy, it's not this, how should I say, this superficial joy where we think like, oh, now we have to kind of be happy because we've got it, but actually just like this contentment, that we know that this is good, and it fulfills us in many ways. On that, I should just mention we have this standing joke in Denmark, especially, I don't think it's just among my friends, I think it's just general, where we kind of how should we say, we laugh at the whole fact that that everything has to be really Hygge, okay, and this overemphasis on Hygge. So we sometimes, especially if you gather friends and things like that, you've got all the settings, you've done it, you've done it right, and we go 1, 2, 3 Hygge, okay, like now we just have to have a really good time, and everyone laughs, because we all know that is not how it happens. You can have all the framework and still not have it, but you can create it. And in Denmark, because of the social setting as well, It's very much something that we do when we socialize with other people. We also do it just within ourselves. We do it within the family. You know, it kind of depends on the people that you surround yourself with. Oh, this is a completely different talk. Um, but I hope you've enjoyed this talk on the origins of Hygge, from the, how should we say, the cradle of Hygge. And I know that there's a lot of information out there because obviously Hygge's kind of been taking the world by storm for many, many years. It's worth remembering that, yes, the Nordic countries and Denmark have been topping the United Nations happiness report for many, many years. And Hygge is definitely one of the key components for that. Researchers say, and I firmly believe so, through the work and the research that I've done. So if nothing else, then I hope that you can create some great moments of Hygge today, and every day after. And hopefully I will see you again soon. If you've got any questions, don't forget to let me know. And yes, let me speak to you soon again. More about happiness, health, and Hygge. Bye bye.